XL, rather. That's so many X's.
Yeah, there's Expect, XL, and XL. It's the triple X threat. Vin Diesel's in here now.
XL will be looking for an AD carry and potentially a mid or top laner, depending on where they put the Aatrox. And with the Lissandra banned away, and the Rise and the LeBlanc, all these things taken off the boards, you kind of go to XL and it's like, what's he got left in his champion pool? Well, he used to play a lot of Yasuo, he used to play a lot of Zoe, neither of which are the strongest in the current meta. But I have seen some Yasuos being played bot, more so in solo queue than in pro play. And
with the Rakan, that's a quite common duo as well.
That's true, yeah. A lot of knockups, actually.
Yeah, you've got the Xinzao knockup, you've got the Urgot Disdain with the E, you've got the Rakan knockups, of course, as well. We're waiting on the final couple of bans in the second phase. It's Rise and Lissandra, as you said, taken away by XL, Xayah and LeBlanc taken away by Splyce, and then XL will have the first pick coming into the second phase. Looking towards that mid, looking towards the jungle as well. Maybe top, depending on where the Urgot goes.
Well, bots, because you assume that these Jazz
yes.
So, okay, it was a Kai'Sa. So very traditional, very standard, very short range against the Caitlyn, but definitely outscales. Very strong in the team fights as well. Largely, I believe the Storm Razor is the primary rush on a lot of Kai'Sas, and then you translate that into a Rage Blade. Very strong 2-item spike, really solid in team fights, a lot of mobility. And Splyce, they're just kind of going for very standard. Again, a lot of flexibility with this Scion. You can put it both in top and in mid. We still don't know where the Aatrox is going. My instincts say that the Aatrox is in the mid lane. But Splyce have now rounded their composition out with insanely strong team fighting. Very good siege. Not the fastest Baron, but when you have the ability to just throw your ultimates out, you have huge damage across the board. Storm Razor's Caitlyn has been rising in popularity a lot as well. I just feel like Splyce have all the tools to start these fights, actually kick things off.
Just to reiterate for anyone who may have missed it, Jeskla accidentally picked Rumble in the pick and ban phase. He requested from League officials that we could remake the lobby with the same pick and bans up until that point, and League officials acquiesced to that request, which is why we had the remake. So you can see he picked Kai'Sa instead. We'll be getting on into the game in just a second. Like the Zilean in the bottom lane as well for XL. Wait, did they pick Rumble?
That looks like they picked Rumble.
I saw Zilean on the screen.
I'm just getting confirmation
they picked
from
Rumble.
Producers right now. Yeah, so that is in fact a Rumble
top lane.
How interesting.
That is incredibly interesting.
Now, back when Exped played for G2, this was something that he did often play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was under the impression that they didn't want the Rumble, but it looks like that they are in fact going to run it into the Scion up in the top lane. So this is actually a pretty strong lane for the Rumble. The one thing about him is that he's always had strong pushing power. His team fighting is also very notable. The thing is that he doesn't really have that many escapes. And the thing for XL's comp is that they don't really have that much of a front line. Their team fighting is very solid, but you kind of compare it across the board to Splyce's, and they have two very big tanks. They have the Morgana for CC mitigation as well. They have crowd control, they have damage. I just feel like in terms of team fighting power, Splyce just kind of have a lot more. They could also play the 1-3-1 if they wanted to, because Aatrox is very solid off in a side lane as well, if you so choose. Yeah, I'm very surprised by this Rumble pick, but it's very much about playing around the lane. I think that with this strategy, XL, they're going to look to invest a lot more resources into the top side of the map. Oh,
definitely, and that's what you want to do with a Xinzao as well. We are going to jump on to the Summoner's Rift. First time we'll have seen XL and Splyce in the new season of the League of Legends European Championship. And what a season it's shaping up to be. Already an upset in Game 1. Maybe we'll see another here as the UK underdogs take on the gatekeepers of Splyce. So Norscaren's forgot to buy any items.
Good spot there. Medic. When will Norscaren notice? Wait, but he does have his trinket, doesn't he?
Yeah, you get your trinket as you walk on out of base.
Ah, yes, of course. Yes.
So, yes, no items for Norscaren yet. Maybe some sort of 3D mind games.
Let's see how long he notices, because you noticed in 30 seconds. I didn't notice until you popped it out.
As a support main, the amount of times I've walked out of base, I need to get my wards down.
He still hasn't noticed. The minions are going to spawn soon.
Oh, Kobe actually might overstep a little bit here. Kadra's going to get the jump on in. Flash away from Kobe. 1 minute into the game. And Kobe is a summoner down.
That's a flashless Kobe with an itemless
support.
Norscarin.
Yep.
And he still hasn't noticed.
And XL are invading.
Yes, they are.
4-man invade towards this red buff. There, Norscarin noticed. That's way too late. You're not going to get back in lane in time.
1 minute 20.
That's a wave and a half or so of XP. I think he's going to lose. Might just be a wave depending on how this red buff goes.
Depends also how fast they die. We'll have to wait and see. But XL, starting off with the early aggression, going to steal away the red buff. Now, the reason why they're doing this is because they want to trade sides of the map. So they want to split the map. So this means that XL control the bottom half, whereas Splyce control the top half. And the reason why this is important is because they recognize that Kobe and Norscarin want to push. They want to constantly apply pressure. They want to get into the face of XL, and Splyce can't do that because they don't have jungle assistance. Kadra will always be hanging around the bottom side of the map. You never know when he's going to show up, so that means that you have to play much more defensively. So Splyce can't leverage the early level power of a Caitlyn and a Morgana.
Interestingly, Norscarin has gone for the Guardian down towards that bottom side as well, so we'll make him and Colby just a little bit tankier in that lane if this dive goes down. They're looking for the level 2. There's the engage. Colby, black shield straight away. Great stuff from Norscarin. Heal came out as well from Colby, but stopped XL in their tracks.
I wonder if Norscarin had actually maxed anything when coming into lane, and he was just sitting there waiting to see what would happen. Flash was used from Kasing. Well, they knew that Kobe had no flash, so they wanted to try and punish it. So both flashes were used from XL, but insane reaction speed from Norscarin, living up to some of the hype that he built up for himself last year.
Exactly. Great stuff from the support for Splyce. Still a CS lead for Jessica in that bottom lane. About 10 CS up has mitigated a lot of that pressure in the early game. You can see Kadra just controlling this bottom side jungle. They're going for that split down the middle in terms of jungle. Xerxes gets the Razor Beaks on this side, Kadra gets the Razor Beaks on the other side, and it's all just a balancing act.
So while that action was happening in the bot side of the map, and it looks like Kadril has his eyes on the bot side again.
They know this ward is here. They did spot it on their own Tribush ward, so Kadril knows he's walking over vision.
And remember, diving towers is really hard this early into the game, but because Kobe has no summoner spells, and that's a level 2 Caitlyn and a level 1 Morgana versus 2 level 3s, they feel confident they can just zone them away from the tower. And this just goes back to why they split the map, why that invade was so important. You can mitigate so much pressure if you can control halves of the map. And because Xerxes couldn't help his bot side, because the jungler wasn't present to kind of push Kadril away, that means that Splyce's duo is now very far behind.
Already a turret plating going over to XL as well, so even with that 14 CS lead, you're looking at more gold in the back pockets of XL. Look at that difference. Already 400 between the two AD carries.
That's
only
a kill.
4 minutes in. That's a kill. That's 100 extra gold a minute that Jeskla has got over his lane opponent.
So, a lot of action has been happening down towards the bot side of the map, but we also got to talk a little bit about the top, because there is a Rumble in the game. We haven't seen a Rumble in a very long time, and Expect was one of the players in the past that used to be a big fan of this when he played for G2 Esports back in the day. The thing about Rumble is he has a very strong mid-game. He often pushes a lot during the laning phase, and usually junglers have to play around him in order to make sure that he doesn't get ganked all the time. But he's kind of played much more defensively in the early levels. He was actually getting pushed underneath his tower, and that is just because of an awareness that, hey, my jungler is bot side, that means their jungler is top side. So if I get greedy, if I overpush, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. So that's why the farm is very even right now, and why Expect isn't generating as much pressure as a Rumble typically would.
2 years ago, in spring 2017, Expect had an 89% win rate on Rumble, went 8-1 for G2.
That's quite impressive.
On that champion. That was in the regular season. And yeah, it is quite impressive. It's an aggressive champion. It plays mid-game teamfights very well, but it does fall off as the game progresses. So we have to keep our eyes on him if Splyce are able to delay the game, stall out for a big Caitlyn, for a big frontline in those teamfights.
I think it's important to explain why, because the damage part of him doesn't really fall off, right? He still hits very hard, but he's quite short range, so it can be difficult to get onto the carries. And when you kind of think of a 3-4 item Caitlyn against a squishy Rumble in the late game, that Rumble just melts. So you can't offer the same late game value that you could in the mid game, which is why he comes so much harder to play.
See Xerxes just going for the Scuttle Crab here. Of course, joined up with Vizichachi once again. A long time since those two were together on Unicorns of Love. And Splyce have formed this roster, this new roster with 3 new players trying to overcome some of their gatekeeper mentality. They're looking to be this team that will continue to progress year on year, after having such a strong year last year.
Yeah, back in 2018, Splyce really did look very solid. We talked a little bit about it earlier on during the delay, but they finished 3rd place in Spring Split. They went to 5 games versus Schalke, the finalists, in the quarterfinals, and they went to 5 games versus G2, the world semi-finalists, in the gauntlet. So you can just kind of see that even though on paper it didn't look like the accolades were the best, they had a lot of strong opponents that they really pushed to the brink.
And you just have to look at, look back to the start of spring. Splyce struggled no end. W1D1 fed his butt off in a lot of those games, and still they were able to overcome and make it into the playoffs and make it to that 3rd place match. Now, Kadra's gone for an invade here. Xerxes going to trade into him. Skirmisher Saber with a longsword up against just a Skirmisher Saber, and Kadra's winning out for the moment. Humanoid on his way with the World Ender. Exile's going to come across the wall as well. Needs to go in. Lands the Fear Beyond Jet. Oh, the Sejuani back. We're having meat tonight, says Exile. 1-for-1 trade.
Ooh, really good trade there, but over-aggression from Kadral in the jungle. I love the fact that Humanoid popped his World Ender to get there faster, but now we have more action up in the top side.
Flame Spitter from the Rumble, just trading onto Chachi's health bar. Not really expecting to take him down. It is a Scion after all, pretty tanky in that top lane.
Just trying to keep his pink ward alive, but unable to do so. But yeah, ends up being a 1-for-1. I did not expect that ultimate from Exile to actually secure...
Threaded the needle.
Yeah, but I didn't expect it to get the kill either. I didn't think that he was low enough health, but you can see the Halo Blade Xin coming out once again. The amount of early game damage that it can do is ridiculous, but also Aatrox in the early game, a lot of damage as well. But then, yeah, Exile just barely able to get enough damage down to find himself a kill. And he walks away as a happy mid laner. So both mid laners very happy, both junglers not so much. But the game's still very even.
Incredibly even. 1-1, 100 gold between the two teams. That CS discrepancy that we saw in the bottom lane, that's evened out as well. Both AD carries on the same farm now. You expect the Caitlyn to be able to do that in this lane.
But also think about what would have happened in this lane if that much jungle attention wasn't invested early, right? The fact that Caitlyn has been able to come back shows you how one-sided this lane matchup is in favor of Splyce, and now they've been able to close that gap nicely, which means that they're going to start sieging onto this tower and poking things down, and here we see an engage.
Engaged. Norskeven wasn't there in time. Kasing gets a lot of damage down, but rooted up. Kadra's on his way as well. The cleanse used, expects teleported down towards the bottom lane. Xerxes here as well. Kobe low, doesn't have the ability to get away. He's just going to get chucked out by Jessica. They get 2. Incredible stuff from XL diving in the bottom lane.
And all of XL's focus is going into shutting down Kobe and Norskeven. They invest a teleport. It was very nicely done because it was right behind Kobe and Norskeven before they could react. Xerxes was not in a position to be able to get close enough to kind of deter the gank, which means that XL find themselves 2 pretty easy kills that they'll convert into a Cloud Drake as well.
And they invested on it as a team. All 5 members coming down there. Expect with the early teleport, you can't cancel that anymore. They needed to get something out of it, and because of some good play from Kasing early on, they were able to.
So let's look at the minimap here. Rumble goes back to base. He's ready. He needs to buy. He's telling his team, okay, I can TP in. So Norskeven, or Kasing rather, goes to the engage. He locks up Kobe. Kobe still has his flash. The moment the Rumble ult comes through, he realizes, oh no, I'm trapped between 4 very angry XL members. It takes them a while to get the kill onto Kobe, but they wanted to give the gold over to Jessica, and that means that XL picks up a kill. He's now sitting at 2-0. Jessica picks up a kill. He's now 1-0-1, and this dominant lane that Splyce relied on in the early game has been completely shut down.
And just a minute ago, I was talking about how even the game was. Now there's about a 500, 600 gold lead for XL. They've got that Cloud Drake in their back pocket as well, so there'll be some speedy boys walking across the map. Next up is an Infernal, so I'd like to see both teams trying to set up vision down towards that dragon if they can.
But I love the preparedness that we're seeing from XL. The early invade in the jungle, the denial of farm from the Caitlyn Morgana lane, and then the teleport towards bot, setting up that ward to allow it to happen, knowing that Kobe and Norskeven would push, to then punish it. And you can see that XL have come into this game with a plan, and they've said, okay, we see the Caitlyn Morg, we have to shut it down. Rather than try and avoid it, let's kill it, let's deny it. And they've done a fantastic job, and I feel like with SK impressing earlier, XL now looking to impress again, I've been really impressed with these new orgs joining the league.
Definitely have XL trading onto Humanoid here as well. Let's put the Fear Beyond Death down. The World Enter will drag him back, but of course can't get the kill through that invulnerability. XL has to flash away from the Glacial Prison as well, but still, XL winning these trades in the mid lane. Much more 10-0 than 0-10 XL at the moment.
Exile showing that he can definitely be a big carry if he wants to be. Now Kadril working with his mid and jungle to gain pressure in the river. And now they're looking for a potential dive. Humanoid very, very low right now. Doesn't have his ultimate, but Xerxes here to keep him alive.
Does still have the flash, and XL doesn't have an ultimate of his own, so it's a very difficult dive if you're going to go for it. Kadril's had pretty good control of the jungle thus far this game. XL using their bot lane to come up and clear vision as well, just to try and help deny any awareness of Humanoid in this mid lane.
And we've also got a rotation from the XL bot lane. Caitlyn or Morgana haven't been fast enough to swap, so they're just going to keep picking up these turret plates. The wave clear doesn't exist right now for Aatrox, and that's 3 plates going down in favor of XL. A lot of extra gold going to be picked up, and this also means that a Rift Herald will go in the back pockets of Caitlyn.
It was so common in the past where we'd see a team take a dragon and trade for the Rift Herald, or trade, you know, a part of a first tower for the Rift Herald. Now it seems very much more like teams can get both the dragon and the Rift Herald if they play the cards right.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with what XL have been able to do, and they come back to the bot lane to pick themselves up some nice farm as well. So all well and good for the early game of XL. Oh, that's the ulti from XL. He needs one more hit.
Oh, Humanoid flashes away from it. You can see him just like tasting it. It's like, I want my meal tonight. You're not going to deny me, but he does. And Kadril now on his way. Humanoid realizes able to get away with the Umbral Trespass just for the moment. Xerxes going to turn it around. Kadril's got a little bit too deep here, a little bit too ham. And Xerxes will take him down because of it.
Huge overextension there from Kadril. This is the second time we've seen it this game. First at the blue buff, now underneath the tower. That's an easy kill picked up for Splyce. But XL, they're not conceding the pressure.
They have that demolish on Kissing, which will mean they can take these towers down a little bit more easily. Good play there from Xerxes in that last fight, though. Able to be in the right place at the right time to make sure that Kadril couldn't take down Humanoid.
So, XL sitting on a pretty healthy gold lead right now. They're the ones being super proactive on the map. And I think it's important to remind viewers about what Splyce's game plan was. Snowball the bot tower, run around the map. Oh, before we get to that, we can go into this replay. So you can see clutch flash here from Humanoid. What XL doesn't spot is that Xerxes is actually hanging around the mid lane still, and Kadril thinks, oh, this is an easy kill, I can pick this one up, no problem. He flashes in, tries to get the kill, but a great dash from Humanoid over the wall actually creates a big enough gap to allow Xerxes to come in and save him. And then Xerxes ends up picking up the kill as well. So definitely greedy there from Kadril. He didn't need to make that play. He could have just come to the tower instead, delayed the back, gotten a little bit of extra damage down. But there we are, hindsight is 20/20.
So before we got into that replay, you were talking about how Splyce's game plan was to snowball through the bottom lane. They haven't been able to do that as of yet.
Yes, and that's why they're constantly on the back foot right now, because when you're running this Caitlyn, ideally you take a tower very quickly, and then you use the early gold with your Storm Razor, and you kind of move around this one-item spike Caitlyn to kind of constantly take down tower and tower and tower and tower. XL planned for this, they shut it down, so they're the ones dictating the pace of the early game, so now Splyce will be looking to stall things out, given the early game didn't go the way that they had planned, and they'll be relying on these late game team fights with this very strong front line that they have with Sejuani Scion. They have good engage, and then they should have good follow-up damage once the Caitlyn hits about 3 items.
Question is, will they be able to stall for that 3-item point? Because now the Infernal Drake is on the cards. XL will be looking to get that. Of course, gives you a little bit more AD and AP now since the last time we played on a professional patch. 10% for the first Infernal Dragon as a buff. Kadril's going to start it up. You've got the bot lane pushing in. Xerxes now jumps into the pit. Still has the Arctic Assault to jump out if he needs to. Can just tunnel his way across the wall, which is what he does. Kadril backs away from the dragon for the moment.
It was a little bit of a risky play to start from Kadril, but the teleport is up and available from Expect. You can see he's going back to base now. We'll pick up his first item, which will be the Morellonomicon. And XL just maintaining vision control around this area. Going to push out mid, they need to push out bot, and then they can look for something like the Drake. Ooh, good trade there for Humanoid, though.
Yeah, the Dark and Blade doing quite a lot of work. XL is going to keep him on the back foot, though. The Infernal Drake's been started. That control ward denying any vision for Splyce for the moment. Xerxes have to jump across if he wants to get in there in time, because it's down to 1,000 HP, and already the Infernal Drake is gone, but Splyce might want the fight. You can see Xerxes waiting just around the corner, misses the bowler. Kadril now needs to get away. Will pop his own ultimate. It's rooted in place and will sacrifice himself for the dragon.
So 1 life for Infernal Drake is not too bad for XL, depending on your perspective. Definitely picking up that gold for Humanoid is going to be nice for the Aatrox, now sitting at 2-0 and 1, and it means that Splyce can start to push these other lanes out because the threat of a jungler is gone. But Infernal Drake later on into the game, always going to be very valuable, increasing your overall damage now by 10% compared to the old 8, given the recent buffs that did happen to it.
Big thing just happened here, Vedius, and I just spotted that the Rift Tower had actually expired on Cadril as he was dead. So that is actually a much more beneficial situation for Splyce than it would have been if they'd been able to use that Rift Tower.
Good spot there, Medic, because that could have actually been especially with the towers now squishier after we passed the 14-minute mark, that definitely would have helped, especially around the bot side of the map, secure a tower, but XL not going to be able to leverage that, and the gold starts to close up a little bit more. So this is...
Ooh, XL farming minions. But the new overlay is cool, so that's...
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we are back to live.
XL did a really good job of getting those minions, actually.
So, one thing I also want to bring attention to the viewers is you'll notice what the supports are doing right now. See, if you look at your minimap, you can see that both of them have actually ran down mid rather than straight to bot. That's because they want to group up with their jungler / mid laner to get a bit of vision around the map. Maintaining control around this area is very, very important, and the primary vision provider is your support. So they're going to group up, and they're going to just offer that extra bit of assistance to set that all up.
That they are... You have to look at the supports on each side as well. Norscarin, of course, known last split for his very enthusiastic cams, his dabbing on camera as well, but also for his engaged plays and how well he played on Roccat. On the other side, XL built their team around their support. They built their team around Kasing, who is one of the most veteran players in the LEC.
Yep, but we might not have time as a fight is kicking off.
Humanoid pops the World Ender, looking for the engage onto Cadril. Exhaust comes down as well. Cadril jumps away. There's the Beer Beyond Death, but it's not going to get the kill because, of course, that World Ender was on. Cadril goes gold, and Xerxes now on the wrong side of Expect. Kasing coming forward. Humanoid chasing onto Exo. The fight's on two fronts. They could just about catch Xerxes, and they will survive for the moment with the decimating smash from Chachi's. Going to try and keep Exile in place. Pulled back. No. Flashes away. Norscarin now dead as well. And Exile have come out on top of the fight. Look at Kasing. He's chasing forward once again, leading the front line for Excel as they find 2 kills in the mid lane.
So XL come out on top at the back end of that fight. It all became very sporadic as everyone was kind of split apart. But the most crucial thing is that Jeskla and Kasing got to the fight before Cobbett and Norscarin could. XL extend their gold lead now to just over 2,000 as the veteran roster of Splyce fall further behind.
Incredible stuff from XL, because it looked like Cadril was caught out. It looked like XL was caught out, but piece by piece, XL just put the team fight right into the right position.
Yes, they certainly did. And all started off with actually Humanoid around the river. He popped his ultimate very early on. It kind of looked like the Splyce were the ones looking to set up this engagement, but he ends up getting caught out. But yeah, no, look, he immediately ults. He's like, I've got Sejuani behind me. I've got a Scion ulting in. I can melt through Cadril. This isn't a problem at all. And it actually ends up a 3 versus 2 before the fight really kicks off. Expect doesn't get the best ultimate either, but here, Jesper and Cadril, they arrive to the fight. Xerxes now split off. Splyce cannot lock down Exile, and he can regroup with his team. And then the flash over the wall from Norscarin looks good at first, but he did not have a stopwatch. He couldn't go invulnerable and set up the crowd control for the rest of his team to follow. And honestly, his team wasn't in a position to follow anyway. The Caitlyn couldn't get involved. Vizicachi used his ultimate. Humanoid didn't have his ultimate available either. So Splyce, their coordination in that fight was just a little bit all over the place, and XL were quick to capitalize.
That replay was brought to you by Alienware, and what a replay it was, because XL now will look to open up the game just a little bit more. They've got that mid tower down, 2 towers in their favor as they took down top as well. They have this 3,000 gold lead. At the 20-minute mark, we talked about how strong they can be in the mid game with the Rumble, with the Xin Zhao, with the Urgot.
Yep.
What's their next objective? Are they just going to look straight towards the Baron?
For Excel?
Yes.
I think going for a Baron this early on is very, very risky. They only really have the Urgot to tank it up, so... and I mean, it's relatively fast, but I still think this early on is dangerous, especially against this team fight content that Splyce have, where they kind of want you to group up in that situation. I think XL's right now main goal is to push into the enemy jungle, gain more vision control, deny enemy camps, and leverage the fact that you have a pretty solid lead in the mid-game, and you can just deny more farm. Put yourself in a better situation, extend that gold lead just slightly further, and then look to posture around the Baron. And rather than just commit to it and then force them to fight, see if you can find a pick or a fight before the objective actually happens.
Definitely makes a lot of sense, and you have the pick tools in the form of the Xin Zhao, in the form of the Rakan as well, so if you can just catch one member out, you then start a 4v5. That will work out incredibly well for XL. It looks like it's a 1-3-1 for the moment for them. Exile up in the top lane, Expect over in the bottom lane, and Vizicachi is going to try and answer Exile for the moment, but not really going to be able to do too much because he's a Scion answering into an Urgot. And we do have a quick pause, as I'm sure we will find something to be rectified in just a second.
Right, so we will find out where the pause has come from, but all in all, XL surprising, I would say. They've had a bit of a unique pick with the Rumble up in the top lane. They also have come out the gate swinging with a very effective early game strategy, and now they're playing these team fights and playing the game very well.
But they are, and I think Splyce maybe slightly disappointing. Like, XL have played well, but Splyce also haven't always had the answer they needed to the way that XL played. Like, the level 1, level 2 action with the red buff invade, Norscarin not having his items to start off with, Kobe maybe overextending to get vision a little bit at level 1, burning his flash. There were a few mistakes there that I'm sure Splyce will want to weed out.
I think that Splyce were just not expecting XL to come in as prepared as they were. The fact that Caitlyn or Morgana was drafted should have been a surprise to many people, because the thing about Caitlyn Morgana is that it's not really that high on the tier list. It's not something that many teams have prioritized around the world, and so why would XL suddenly have a strategy to try and mitigate it and shut it down? But having spoken to some of the analysts, like they were like very conscientious of things like the Caitlyn. They wanted to make sure that they were prepared for kind of as much as possible, and you can see how well they were able to execute upon the strategy of denying the Caitlyn and not allowing it to snowball through the early game. So I've been impressed with XL. They're sitting on about a 2,500, 3,000 gold lead right now, and they're looking very good.
Just so that everyone at home understands what page we're on, XL report they did not hear the Scion ultimate in the last team fight, and League officials are reviewing the Shadow play now. I think we're going to play on, so we should be getting on into the action in just a second. And that's good, because I like watching League of Legends and talking about League of Legends, and these guys are going to play some League of Legends.
Excellent. Yeah, I can confirm the pause has been resolved. And here we are. So what we were talking about, you asked about next steps. XL will push in the waves. They know they have a gold lead, so Splyce kind of have to concede. They don't have that level of pressure. And XL are just dropping bits of wards down, stealing away camps, making Splyce uncomfortable. Maybe they'll face check a brush and they'll get caught out. Maybe they'll overextend and get into a fight that they don't want to get into. Ultimately, what XL are just doing is saying, come on, Splyce, come to us, come check. And Splyce are like, we're okay for now. We're going to stay back here. We're going to play a little more defensive.
And this is the moment you sometimes see newer organizations mess up a little bit, because it's about doing it by the numbers. It's about not taking... not skipping steps. You know, you have to get your vision control in. You have to get the deep wards in. You then clear the vision. You reset. You get deeper wards in. You clear the vision again. You get your waves in the right position. And that's how you set up for these picks, for these plays in the mid to late game.
Did I lend you my handbook? Is that what you've been studying?
We live in the same house. Every night, I sneak in, I read the diary, and after it says, I love the Fisho for a few pages, it's like, oh, okay, League of Legends.
You weren't supposed to tell people about that.
I'm sorry, man. I feel hurt sometimes, because I've never seen an I Love Medic in there. But I see a lot of I Love the Fish.
Well, we live together. It would be wrong.
That would be awful. That's true, actually. I'm glad I've never seen one.
I must keep my emotions in check. Now, Splyce, they're looking to find a kill on Expect.
Great stun onto Expect there. Locks him down. He has the flash, but he's actually going to try and use it to come down here. Humanoid will get the kill. Good stuff from Splyce. They're the ones to find the pick.
So this was a bit of an oversight from XL, because typically, if Splyce are sending 2 members all the way up into the middle of the top lane when they have no tower there, XL should be generating pressure elsewhere in order to try and punish Splyce. But because there wasn't that pressure, instead they tried to save Expect. It means that Splyce can walk away with a kill, get back some of the vision that they had on the map, pick themselves up a bit of gold as well, and now you have Humanoid sitting at 3-0-1 on this Aatrox, will really be one of the defining factors in turning this game back in favor of Splyce.
And now has his second completed item as well, alongside with that Black Cleaver. The Yumu's Ghostblade was his first, then Black Cleaver. Both AD carries sitting on 2 items as well. So I'd like to see Jeskla being used a little bit more by XL here. We talked about how strong a Kai'Sa can be on the Stormrazor Ginsu's power spike.
Certainly true. But again, it's all about creating a circumstance where they can then create that team fight. And the fact that they've just lost that tower is definitely a big deal. So XL, they're going to have to reset. The gold gap has closed just a tad. And now XL resetting their vision around the Baron.
It's always been around that 1,000, 2,000 mark. XL do have triple Dragon, because they got that second cloud as well, so they're going to be very speedy, and I'm sure Kasing will be very happy about that, of course, on the Rakan. Makes it a lot easier for him to get on towards that backline. But if a couple of the XL members die, they will be giving up those bounties as well.
So earlier on, we were talking a little bit about Kasing, and how, for him, he's the second oldest player in the EULCS.
You know what? Why I'm sad about that? Both of us are older than him.
He's 25. But also, this is his 200th EULCS game. Technically his first LEC game.
Yeah.
But he's definitely played in Europe for a very long time. He ranks 18th out of 225 for most LCS games played. And we kind of talk about him being the captain of this team, him kind of being the franchise player, as it were, the player that this team was built around, and kind of that leader, that shot caller. And on this Rakan, so far he's had a fantastic game, and there have always been question marks around Kasing around how strong is he? Can he only play range supports? Is he someone that you can really rely on to be a leader? And that's something that's going to be evaluated throughout the split. But so far in this first game, things have looked pretty good for the side of XL. So as the captain, he immediately takes all the credit.
And it almost takes Xerxes' face, a flail to his face as well, as he's just able to dodge away in the last second. Has that Zeke's convergence finish, which I really like on the Rakan, one of his key items. Expect overextended once again. You can see Exile's down towards the bottom lane, does have the teleport, but Xerxes here and has that ultimate. Doesn't quite connect, the ace in the hole coming out as well. They're burning everything on Expect, but a kill is a kill, say Splyce, and they will take down the top laner of XL.
But again, XL, they can't really punish anywhere else on the map. They don't have a minion wave against this mid-tier 2. XL is pushing down towards the bot tier 2, but I don't know if they're going to be able to secure this, which means that Splyce find themselves another pick. They alleviate some of the pressure. Unfortunately for them, XL might just have enough damage to secure this objective. So it wasn't all that bad for XL. They still come out ultimately on top.
It's only one tower, though, for the kill, and as we say, Splyce just wanted delay and delay and delay. We talked about 3 items on Caitlyn. That's what Kobe's going to be looking for. That's what is in the eyes of all of the Splyce players, because if they can get there, you have a tanky front line, and you've only really got a Kai'Sa to try and work his way through it.
But the important thing as well is that Splyce are maintaining vision around this Baron, which is the primary objective that they don't want to lose, because for them, it is the easiest situation for them to force a fight, which they can feel confident that they can win. So you're right, they're stalling out, they're waiting for this moment in time, when the big purple worm becomes the primary objective, and then they can just play around it. So Splyce, things going quite well for them so far. XL really haven't been able to find a successful play really within the last 10 minutes.
It's what we used to know Splyce for as well in spring and summer of last year.
Late
Just like
game.
stall for the late game.
Yep.
Eventually, Kobe will get 5 items on Caitlyn.
Yep.
We'll just auto-attack. It's when Kasing was on the team, of course, playing against this former team today. As his mid lane tower will get chunked out pretty quickly. Tower's very vulnerable after they lose their plating. Like paper mache, just melt away in the rain.
XL is pushing in the bot lane. Expect does have a teleport, still no flash. We'll go catch that wave up towards the top side, but Humanoid has his eyes on the Yordle. Here comes the Yomus.
I feel like we're in the point where Humanoid just 1v1s this right now. Expect just trying to walk his way away, but the stopwatch straight into the ultimate, and Expect for the 3rd time in a row will be XL's death. Splyce take the lead in the kill score.
XL's trying his best to pressure, but Vizicachi is there, Kobe's on his way.
Yeah, now XL's just pushed too far as well. Didn't realize that Kobe was on this side of the map, but Kobe will just continually pound away with those headshots. Not really a huge amount XL can do. He's trying to walk his way away, but eventually he'll fall. Shut down, goes across to Chachi, and XL don't really have an answer.
Yeah, and ooh, the flash comes in from Kasing. He's not able to land the charm. He will finally hit Xerxes.
Kado's going to jump forward, but Xerxes still has his flash, so that's the ultimate used by Kasing. The flash and Jeskla's ultimate, really for only the flash of Xerxes.
And now you can see the experience difference between the two teams. Splyce, in this mid to late game portion, are recognizing the holes in XL's strategy and are punishing them for it every single time. Expect has been the primary target. XL have not done much to keep him alive, keep him safe, allow him to create the pressure they can utilize to push into Splyce's base. And Splyce have worked their way back into the game. Items are being completed. 3 items now on Humanoid. Level 16 for this Aatrox. And Splyce are the ones that now get to dictate the pace of the game.
Infernal Drake on the cards, no ultimate on Kasing. Root's going to land, but that's only on to Expect. Here comes the teleport. The fight's going to start, but look at the damage coming out from Kobe. Bullets to the back of Expect, down to half HP already. Xerxes comes in, straight into the bowler. Cage will get demolished, and all of XL get deleted. 2 down already, and Splyce just keep rolling that train forward. There's no stopping the hype train for Splyce right now. There's a 3rd kill, the tower their target.
Perfect 5v5 team fight for Splyce. They started off by getting very good chip damage down onto Expect, and then they just followed it up from there. Great ultimate from Xerxes. Humanoid demonstrating what he can do on this champion, and now they make their way towards the Baron with Cagel dead.
No ultimate on Expect. Jeskla just about to get his up as well, but do you even take this fight if you're XL? It looks like they're going to leave it, go for the Infernal Drake themselves. Some sort of semblance of hope maybe in having double Infernal in the cloud.
Humanoid's on his way. He has his ultimate up as well.
Has been spotted on that ward. There's the teleport coming in as well. Gonna fight this one. Jessica staying around to get the dragon, just about gets it. Will sacrifice himself for it. Can an insect flash? Gets away for the moment. Humanoid can still chase forward. Flash ignite. That's a lot burnt from Humanoid there.
Yeah, but it will still be a Baron in favor of Splyce. They finally get themselves the gold lead. And this is the late game Splyce that we were talking about. So I didn't expect this roster to have a similar playstyle, but it seems like they do. Initial binding lands on from Noskorin, and just look at the amount of combined damage coming out from Kobe and Noskorin on to expect. He gets chipped down. Now they're all clumped up to allow this engage to come out from the side of Splyce. The Sejuani ultimate, the Scion ultimate, the damage from Humanoid, and just the safety that Kobe has behind it all means that they have a fantastic teamfight composition that just melts through XL.
Great stuff from Splyce. Finally found that team composition come online. They've got the Baron, they've got an Infinity Edge on their AD carry as well. Very good position all around. About a 2,000 gold lead for Splyce, coming up to the 30-minute mark, and you have to feel teamfight's only going to get harder and harder for XL now.
Yep, there's the Infinity Edge on the Caitlyn. That's a big yikes. Definitely going to be something you have to respect. Xerxes with the ultimate looking for someone.
Unstoppable Onslaught hits onto Exile. He's the tankiest member of XL though, and there comes the Equalizer. Engage on the backline. The charm's going to connect, but here comes Humanoid looking for the Darking Blade, seeing if he can land those knockup. Already down quite low, but the World Ender will bring him back. And now maybe XL can turn it around. Cage chunked out by Kobe, who is now on the front line for Splyce. And XL able to hold on for the moment.
Unfortunately, Jessica didn't have his ultimate available. That could have been a big factor in swinging the fight in favor of XL, but they hold the attack from Splyce. That Baron slowly whittling down. No objective is converted in Splyce's favor. They will find a tower towards the bot side of the map, but still the fact that XL walked away with all of their members alive, definitely something they can be happy with.
And Humanoid continuing to show us why so many people rated him coming into the LEC. Look at his rotational flanking play in this fight.
So he dives immediately onto the backline. All the engage tools get thrown onto Kobe, who doesn't get touched thanks to a great black shield from Noskorin. They're trying to land as much single target CC onto XL to kill him, but as you identified, he is the tankiest member on this XL squad, so he survives for an incredibly long time. And unfortunately for Splyce, they're not able to find a kill secure onto him. But now they're back in the positioning of sieging. They have Baron empowered minions in 2 waves, and they're slowly chipping down these tier 2 towers.
That's all you have to do. As we said before, you get a cannon minion every wave after the 25-minute mark, which makes it even easier to push with Baron because you don't have to wait for the cannon wave. It's just going to be there. It's going to help you out. This bottom lane tower will fall pretty quickly as Expect just waits for the cannons to push in and lose that Baron buff. XL still holding on to the mid lane. King's coming up towards top 4 Splyce. They just want to work their way around here by the numbers. Kasing standing on a ward as well as he looked for an engage opportunity.
Jessica will have to be the big carry in these upcoming fights. It's going to be difficult. Level 14 to level 16 Kobe. But he's the one with 3 items completed. He is kind of the late game threat that XL will be relying on to turn these fights in their favor. Now remember, Expect does have damage, but it's much harder to pull that damage off as the game gets longer and longer. So XL's composition is starting to taper off. It will definitely struggle against this front line of Splyce. And while things look great for XL in the early game, their mid-game, it kind of looked promising, but they left a couple of gaps. They left a couple of holes that Splyce were very quick to punish. And you know, that kind of ties back in to the experience that we talked a lot about with Splyce. They have a lot of returning members, Vizicachi and Xerxes, former Unicorns of Love, reunited, Kobe and Noskorin. Noskorin, a guy that showed a lot last year. And also you have that infrastructure for Splyce, the coaching staff that turned a team into a strong competitor towards the end of 2018.
They definitely do, and to top it all off, you have Humanoid, this rookie EU mid coming in after winning the Ultra Liga. Now showing us why he's so strong. Yet to die this game, has a 950 gold bounty on his head. Continues to champion that EU mids are the best mids all around the world.
Ambitious statement.
I'm allowed to say
Faker
it.
coming back.
Oh, come on. We've had Baby Faker.
But you're definitely right. EU mids are definitely a thing. Now,
they exist.
They are a thing, yes. So Baron will be respawning in about a minute and a half. Cloud Drake will be up in 30 seconds. Those shorter respawn timers of these epic monsters definitely means that the game moves at a slightly faster pace. The question is, will Splyce be able to end before 40 minutes? Because back in the summer of, spring, very early on last year, Usually, Splyce's average game time was like 44 minutes.
Yes.
So we'll see if they can be a little more efficient this time around.
I mean, average game time at the moment is a little bit lower. Even LCK games count as long if they're over 35 minutes or so.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, you never know with Splyce. They like to hold on to the game for as long as possible.
They like to end it cleanly.
Yes.
So they take their time. They don't feel the need to rush.
Exactly.
And I think with the composition that they've had, that's fine. It looks like right now they're waiting for the Baron. They're just clearing out the waves, making sure they have full vision control of the river and the pit. They're just being patient. They have pressure bot, they have pressure top. Just step by step. They are very textbook, Splyce.
Have they been reading your diary as well?
Well, I think they've been reading the manual as opposed to the diary.
If you could show me this manual at some point, because I feel color casters have an advantage. Like, you all have access to this manual.
It's not a real manual. It's like an imaginary manual that just a lot of pro players agree on. And so you then just kind of figure out what the pro players are thinking, and then you just regurgitate it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So really all you're doing is pro player vomit.
Yes.
That's your job.
Effectively.
At least I do some exciting stuff. It's just that puking everywhere.
Because I mean, like, I try to figure out what the pro players are thinking, right? And it's hard because pro players they're wily.
They're strange
They're
people.
difficult to read. But in terms of the game, like, usually it's just a matter of steps and options. And for Splyce, what they want is the Baron. XL want to not let Splyce have the Baron.
That makes
sense. So,
sense.
given those choices, what options do they have available? And for Splyce, it's very much about, well, let's stop them having any vision. Let's see if we can kind of force them back, get some pressure. Whereas XL, they're looking for an engage.
I mean, Chachi was the one to step a little bit too far forward here. He's popped the Gargoyle Stone Plate. You can see XL just getting pulled back. Neither of them have taken any damage yet. Okay, please. 80 carry in 2019,
Right.
XD.
But the crit from the Caitlyn after they caught XL on the trap was actually pretty significant, but he's just going to go back to base. He has the TP.
Kado's going to get pulled back here. Has the GA. Pops the Crescent Slash as well to try and get away. Chachi there. Gets the damage down, pops that GA. XL now trying to step forward, but a great bowler's going to connect, and already Kado's dead. Here comes the equalizer. Maybe XL looking to turn this one around. Kasing has the ultimate and the engage tools, but it's only Chachi really who has taken the brunt of the damage. Humanoid has a GA alongside his ultimate, so you can't really take him down.
Now, Kadril is dead. The smite is gone. I don't know if XL has used the Summoner spellbook recently, but he could swap it to a smite. The thing that Splyce can take advantage of is they have a pushing wave bot, they have a pushing wave top, they've cleared out mid, so they can just start off this Baron without XL really being able to contest.
Yeah, it looks like XL are going to trade it for the third Cloud Drake. They are going to be incredibly fast as they run back towards their base to try and defend against the Baron empowered minions from Splyce. And you saw in that fight, XL don't have a huge amount of damage yet.
Nope.
And we're near the end of the game.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that their late game, it was not built for late game. It was much more built towards early to mid game where they had the lead. They were in a position to just snowball, but they made one too many mistakes, which Splyce could use to stall out. And now they're sieging onto the base. XL have just lost their first inhibitor tower. Humanoid is sieging up topside. He's looking for another inhibitor tower. Splyce looking very clean and calculated in the late game.
8,000 gold lead now for Splyce. They break through those two inhibitor towers, looking for the inhibs to follow it up. Dan Baron's still got a long way left to tick. 3 minutes left on that buff for Splyce as well. They're grouped up as a 5-man in the top lane, and this inhibitor is just getting chipped away at piece by piece by piece.
XL doing what they can to defend his
Engage from Kasing, tries to get us the backline. Jessica jumps forward as well, but he just hasn't got the damage yet. Kasing jumps out, Crescent Slash comes out from Kadril. One down, but that's the world ender. Not even the GA pop yet. XL misses. Cersei gets the kill onto Kadril. Kasing running away, and Splyce now stepping forward. Step by step, they just walk their way into the XL base, and XL really can't do much against this at all. Exile down, XL just dumpstered in their own base. Second inhibitor will fall as well, and Splyce will look for the win.
Splyce, their front line is just too tanky. XL cannot break through it. The super minions and the Baron Power minions are sieging through. Splyce are looking for more.
Kobe's just getting shut down after shutdown. Norscarin will pay for it with his life, but eventually expect will fall. Triple kill for Kobe to round it out, and what better way to do it than with the franchise man. Splyce will pick up their first win in the LEC.
Things look very promising for XL in the early game. I love their split map. I love the way that they denied the Caitlyn Morgana in the early stages of play. But Splyce, that experience really came through. They recognized the small gaps, the small mistakes that XL were making, and they were very quick to punish. They took kills off of X-Bex, they found a couple of towers, they closed that goal gap. And then they just played very calm, very meticulously around things like the bat, very patient, and they relied on their scaling, which XL unfortunately didn't really have any answers for.
That's the reason Splyce are always seen that, you know, playoff contenders. They're not going to give you the game. You have to get the game from them. You have to take it from them. Even if you have an early lead, they're not going to make mistakes and just feed you gold.
Yep.
And credit to XL, of course, for their early game, but Splyce coming out strong in the first round of the LEC.
XL showed some promise, though.
Yeah.
Definitely a positive way to start the split. It's a brand new org, brand new team. You can definitely, going up against, especially some of the players on this Splyce roster, kind of considered to be one of the, or not a favorite in this matchup. But Splyce showcasing that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And XL showcasing that there's definitely a lot of potential that they can work with.
Oh, definitely. I think if you look at both these teams, I think you can say they still have room to grow. They still have potential. They still have space that they need to work into. But for now, a win is a win, and Splyce are the team to put that one on the board for the day.
Yep, I agree.
Sorry, yeah, I felt like I had more to say, and then I just kind of stopped. I was thinking about your diary once again, but yes. I wonder what it will read tonight. Got
Just some clarification, I don't have a diary. I instead write notes and letters scattered amongst my room.
It's fun to search for them. Is it under his duvet? Is it under the pillow?
Notes across
Is it under this old sock? The amount of times I picked up an old sock expecting this gorgeous note that I could read, and instead just get fumes.
To be fair, I have a lot of old socks that just don't fit me anymore, so I just throw them around, and I'm like, I'll throw it out later.
That's enough about socks for now. Let's check out some of the highlights from Splyce's win. And there are a few highlights to look at. You have to look back at the early game where XL were the team to take the advantage, but then in the mid-game, Splyce started coming out on top.
So this is one of the big fights that really started swinging it for Splyce. Unfortunately, XL grouped up, and that's not really the situation that you wanted to be in this mid-game. Splyce were able to land all of their area of effect. Really good stuff from Vizicachi and Xerxes, acting as that front line, setting up that crowd control, and then the damage from Humanoid and Kobe was more than enough to help clean through the fight. So really impressive stuff there from Splyce, and again demonstrating why they're such strong late game team.
And this is just their play style. Like, it's what we saw from them back in spring of last year. Have Kobe on the back line. You can see Kasing almost getting there, but not quite able to do it. And then XL just couldn't work their way through Chachi and Xerxes on that front line. It was just too many tanks for them to deal with.
Yep. This is the power of scaling, my friend, and Baron-empowered minions, of course. So good stuff there from Splyce. Looking forward to seeing what else they can do. Same for XL. Not entirely sure who they play tomorrow, but based on what they've shown today, I feel like that they're definitely an opponent that you have to respect. They come in with a game plan. They seem to be able to execute upon that initial game plan, but it's then maintaining that advantage and being able to snowball is the next step that they'll likely be looking to work on.
They play up against Rogue tomorrow, so that should be a very good game. We've yet to see Rogue play, of course, and we want to get your pick for key player of the game, so head on over to @LOL_Esports on Twitter, where you can choose between Kobe, Xerxes, and Kasing. 3 good players there, I think.
Yes, and as a reminder, Kobe, Xerxes, Kasing no longer on Splyce.
Oh yeah, they're not all on the same team anymore.
We now, of course, choose one member from the opponent team that you can vote for if you feel that they deserved player of the game. For me, I think Xerxes was really the standout. He had a lot of good ultimates. I think he worked well with Humanoid, who definitely deserves an admirable mention.
Yeah, I think Humanoid is my honorable mention for that game. Didn't die in his first game on the LEC stage, played really well, had a massive bounty, 1,000 gold bounty on his head by the end of it as well. So someone's going to have to snipe him the next time they play. But for more on Splyce's win, let's check in with Laura and their top laner.
Thank you very much, Medic. Standing with Vizicachi here. How are you feeling after this first win?
Oh, I'm feeling really good. It was nice to be back on stage, even though we felt a bit more shaky compared to how we usually play. But I think that's always like the new start of the season. You need to get used to the stage again, and then the decisiveness will come.
You're saying that it was a bit shaky. What was different?
Like in the early game and mid game, we got a bit thrown off. Maybe because we didn't buy my item on support and the level 1 as well. We lost flash on ADC. So our game plan was a bit shaken. But I think after that, in the mid game and mid-late game, we stabilized a lot and the shot calling was back as well.
I agree. Now, one more question. You'll be playing with one of your old teammates, Xerxes. Was it helpful during trainings to know that you could rely on some existing synergy?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, it was largely influencing my decision to come to Splyce originally, that I knew that I can play together with Xerxes as well, who I value really high. and I think our synergy was instantly back on track after playing a few games together, and we also discussed what the other one thinks about the certain situations on how to gank top lane, and I think we have a very good understanding right now, and I know I can rely on him very much.
Yeah, and it clearly showed today. Now you have a newcomer in the LEC in your team, Humanoid, who had an exceptional game today. Can you tell me something about him? How is he? What can we expect from him?
He's a very talented, aggressive mid laner, and it's exactly who we were looking to get, and someone who can improve during the split as well. And I think he's doing really well in scrims, and he stepped up on stage as well, which shows that he actually has no fear. He's not afraid to dive the backline and come with the team, and he knows his rotations well as well, so he's quite knowledgeable too. And yeah, that's very good for our lineup.
And we'll be expecting to see more of him now. Thank you very much for joining me on stage.
Well.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's going to be Schalke 04 versus Vitality. Don't go anywhere.